Hello, my name is Alexey, and in this video I will tell you how to work with the project NFT Frames by Motion Mary. So let's open the project. In general, this project is a frame located in the center above the background. There are three main compositions that you will use: main, source NFT, and source BG. All the main work is done in the main composition. Here you can select a frame, adjust it, and adjust the background. There are 8 frames in total. And this is exactly the composition that you will render. In the composition source NFT, you can place the image and the description to it, and your image and text will be in all frames. In the composition source BG, you can choose the background, all 20 of them, or put your background here. Now let's just create a frame with an image in it. Put the image in the source NFT composition. This can be done in different ways. I'll just drag it here from the Explorer. If you enable these layers, you can edit the description to the image, but I'll skip that. Now go to the main composition. As you can see, the image is now in all frames. But before I start setting it up, I'll tell you how it works. The settings for each frame are located directly on the frame layer. By selecting a layer, you will see the settings on the Effect Control panel. Each layer with a frame has its own settings, and they are independent of the others. That is, by setting the color for the selected frames, you will not get the same color for the other frames. At the same time, the background settings that are on this layer are the same for the entire project, regardless of which frame you choose. You can also go to the background settings by selecting this null object. To increase performance, make sure the quarter resolution is selected. In process, we will switch to full to see what our frame looks like in full resolution. Make sure the color depth is set to 8 bits. Before rendering, if necessary, you can switch to 16 bits. I also recommend that you set effects depth to 0 in the background settings while we adjust the frame appearance. Let's look at the frame settings of low poly glass. It is one of those that contains the most settings. The same settings are contained in other frames of glass. Only in the frame rounded glass is there no dispersion. Other frames contain only color adjustment and reflection opacity. It's also possible for all frames to choose one of 3 looped animations. Frame color and frame opacity are responsible for the color and opacity of frame glass. Volume color and volume opacity are for color and opacity of the frame volumetric. Effects refraction and effects dispersion are refraction and dispersion respectively. Effects reflection, opacity of reflection. Let's set all parameters to 0, leaving only frame opacity to 100. Now choose any color. To make our palettes look the same, make sure that edge is selected. Switch to full to see our frame looks like in maximum resolution. Let's play with color again. I'll pick this one. Then we add refraction and a little dispersion. Now click 0 on numpad to cache our animation. When first working with the frame, this can take some time, especially in maximum resolution. Let's go back to quarter. Now let's work with the volumetrics. To do this, let's set frame opacity to 0 volume opacity to 100. Let's try to adjust the color. Look, that's how it works. I'll pick that color. Now I'm going to set the opacity of volumetric to about the middle. Set frame opacity to 100 and add a little reflection. Let's cache at maximum resolution. The end result depends on the combination of these four parameters: frame color, frame opacity, volume color, and volume opacity. So experiment with them and how to combine them. Now you can easily customize other frames. As I said above, these settings are repeated for other glass frames. In others, you simply adjust the color and opacity of the reflection. Let's start with the background settings. They are on this layer, and you can also go to them by clicking on this null object. Don't forget to choose quarter. Color hue controls the background color. Simply rotate this wheel until you're satisfied with the result. Color saturation. If set to 0, color hue does not give any results. Lights increase and decrease brightness in light and bright areas of background. Shadows does the same in dark and shady areas. This allows you to adjust the background brightness and contrast. Experiment with these settings. Effects Dove adds depth of field. Now let's change the image. To do this, go to the composition source BG and choose one of 20 backgrounds. 10 backgrounds on the theme of rocks and 10 on the theme of space. I'll choose this background. Experiment with background settings. Notice how lights and shadows work. If you want to use your background, you just put it in the composition source BG. The main thing to know is that background settings affect everything inside this composition. And if you want your background to look exactly as it is, you need to do the following. Set saturation to 0, lights and shadows set to 50 and 67 respectively. This is what these values are for. That's it. Now your image placed in source BG will not be influenced by background settings. But that doesn't mean you cannot use them. They will work very well with your images. Let me give you some explanations and recommendations. Color hue and color saturation are designed to work with black and white images. Color saturation simply adds color to the black and white image, and setting saturation to 0 doesn't make your custom color image black and white, as you might accept. In fact, it just adds color to it. But if you add a bit of saturation and twist the color hue, it will have an effect. This is the way to tone the image, but don't overdo it. Again, these settings are designed to work with a black and white image. Other settings, lights, shadows, and effects Dove, are the same for color and black and white images. So if you want to use your image for the background as it is, or use a specific solid color, just set color saturation to 0 and lights and shadows to 50 and 67 respectively. Now that you have set up your frame and background, you'll probably want to render it. I'll not describe the rendering process from After Effects, I'm sure you can do it. I'm just gonna tell you how to render a looped video. Choose one of 3 animation cycles. I'll choose the first. This is what it looks like. Now notice these markers. The space between them is 1 cycle. There are 10 of them. In this composition, 1 animation cycle is repeated 10 times. 1 cycle is 120 frames or 4.8 seconds. This project is 25 FPS. The 10 cycles or length of this composition is 48 seconds respectively. All you have to do is set the beginning of the working area in the extreme left position and drag the end to the right marker. Use pressed Shift key to activate the binding to the markers. This way you get a looped video with the right number of cycles. I'll take 3 cycles. Now everything is ready to add this composition to the render queue. Well, I hope I explained everything clearly. Be sure to put your questions in the comments here or in the comments to the project on Video Hive. The link in the description. Good luck!